Welcome back, you Mavericks. I'm Francis, your Chief Curiosity Maverick, and I'm here with Catherine Wells, our Chief Inspiration Mavericks, and we are your Mavericks of Senior Living.
Hey everybody, we're really excited to be here today with Kris Geerken. Kris is a graduate student of the Masters of Health Administration here at MSU. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you.
Kris, sorry, I'm sorry, we're calling you Kris. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're excited to talk to you. Today we're going to talk about a program called Changing the Narrative. And we talked with Karen Brown about this back in August on a podcast. There's been a lot happening since August, and it's only, early November. Mm-hmm. So there's been a lot of things happening. So we wanted to talk with you about changing the narrative. Let's start with, what is it?
Okay. Changing the Narrative, Colorado, is in partnership with the Next 50 Initiative and the Rose Community Foundation. And it's essentially an initiative that focuses on ending ageism for Colorado and ultimately nationally or internationally. And so that's the broad campaign that we have on ageism. And then what I am focused in on with my capstone program for my MHA program is on the same page, which is part of Changing the Narrative, and on the same page is conversations that are intergenerational about ageism. And so that's what I'm working on.
Excellent.
Can you kind of tell what is intergenerational? What does that really mean to you and to the narrative?
Intergenerational means every age that could have a conversation, and how the age that you are has impacted your life, and how people may have it. So what ageism means is stereotyping about age. And so what experiences have you had where age has been an issue for you, or where you feel like you've been judged because of your age? So it's not about older or younger, it's just any age.
So that's a great point. So for our listeners and viewers out there right now, share your stories or the challenges that you guys might have had around that ageism, whether it's in the workplace, right, or at home even. Let us hear those and put them in the comments right now, and we'll begin to be able to talk about those later in the show here.
Yeah, and tell us what you think you might be doing that might be ageism that you aren't aware of. See if you can start thinking about that, and we'll dive into some of that.
Because before we started, Kathy and I probably used about 15 different words inappropriately.
Yes, not bad words, not the four-letter words, just words that Changing the Narrative is really trying to raise the awareness around and change the conversation that we have. So let's start with this. So this is a Colorado initiative, but I understand it's reaching much farther than Colorado. So tell us about that.
So On the Same Page campaign initially began as the focus would be 10 days of 100 conversations about ageism in an intergenerational context. And so we put that out there, and it's gotten it's far-reaching. Italy, England, Canada, and
France, you said?
Yeah, France, Trinidad, Tobago.
That's awesome.
Then we've had states from Alaska to Maine to Florida and all states in between that have gotten in touch with us to find out more about what we're doing. So it's clearly ageism is an issue for people
worldwide,
all over the world.
Worldwide,
and intergenerationally, it's affecting everyone. So it's something that we need to talk more about.
And we'll share all Kathy held up was our fantastic model to hold up our postcard here. And we'll definitely share all the links and PDFs so you guys can join the movement, because there really is a lot of traction on how we use our language when talking about, what's the right word here?
Well, you're right. I know. I find myself stopping
talking
now.
about age.
Right? Just age in general.
Because I kind of catch myself because there's a couple of words that we're going to talk about later that you really want to try to begin to figure out how you use those, because it can really
are they appropriate? Are they appropriate? And why do we use them? So this right here it's 10 days of 100 conversations. That was the challenge that Janine had. Janine is the head of Changing the Narrative. And that was the challenge that she issued. And really, it's gone beyond that. It's exploded so much that it's no longer 10 days, right? It's an ongoing campaign.
Oh, wow.
Initially, it began as the 10 days between October 25th and November 3rd.
Okay.
But we've had so many people interested in it, but weren't able to arrange or organize a conversation to happen before November 3rd. So we've gone beyond that, and people can do this at any time. And we've even created a new registration page to do this in 2020. So we have people all over that just want to do it, but they don't have the time frame to do it this year. So that's okay too. So
Excellent. And so what is a campaign? What does it mean to participate in this?
Okay, so you would go on the Changing the Narrative co.org website, and then you'll see the on the same page graphic, and then you can go into that and register. And the way that it's structured is that you can choose how you would like to sign up, and you can host within your organization, like say your team, you want to have a conversation with your team or your company. It could be a private event that you would host, and you would just invite your friends or neighbors over to talk about ageism. And another way is a public conversation where you could host in, say, a coffee shop and invite just the public. It could be a public event. So there are different ways that you can create the setting that you're looking for. And once you've decided the way you want that to look, I'll email you the toolkit. It's a facilitator toolkit, so you or someone you know will be the facilitator of the conversation. And we provide everything you need to do this well.
So can anybody be a facilitator? Do you have to have experience in the industry, or who can really kind of take ownership of that?
Yeah, anyone can facilitate this if you're comfortable to do that. The toolkit it looks like this. It's many pages long. But it has everything that you need to know on how to do this. It starts off with, there's 3 video links that we send you that you could send to the people that are coming. And that's like a prompt for a conversation to start once everybody's together. There are activities like icebreaker activities, and then a list of different prompt questions for the group to get the discussion going about ageism. And then there's a call to action at the end to get everyone thinking about how could I change the way I think and speak about age, and commit to something in the next 30 days that you will do that changes your behavior.
Wow.
And one of the things we asked Kris at the beginning of this was call us on it, because we're in the industry. So there are terms that are used in the industry all day long. And they're entrenched in our vocabulary, so we need someone to call us on it. So I'm looking forward to you catching us on some of those. So to participate, you might want to be a host. You can host at an employer's, your own personal host, a public host, and you'll get a toolkit. You'll have all the information you need. You invite people. Or you could just sign up and participate in one of these conversations if you're just curious about it.
Right.
And let's talk about why you might be curious about it. What is one of the things that one of your groups found out recently that's very interesting?
Just a few days ago, one of the groups that hosted at their organization, what stood out for them the most in this group conversation was the word still. And the way it came out was that they were talking about how there was an older person in the group that said someone commented to them that they still travel, and that it's so great that they still travel. And it just highlighted for them that when you frame it in the context of saying that you still do something, it's as though the world is waiting for you to stop doing whatever it is that you do, and like not live anymore, or just not continue the interests that you had before. So
I think that's fantastic. It never would have occurred to me that the word "still" used in that context would cause that.
Never.
Right? And then you had a follow-up to it, which was.
Great.
Are you? I know. Are you okay? Are you sure?
Oh, yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. Are you sure
you want to go
that?
skiing?
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to go for that walk?
And you don't even think about it. Yeah. I think it comes from a place of concern, right? That you ask that question. But would you ask someone that's not an older adult that question? Are you sure you want to go play basketball, or are you sure you want to go swimming, something like that?
Right, yeah. It's definitely limiting language.
Even me sitting here right now, I'm like having to pause a lot more when I'm talking to you because I don't
Right,
want to use
because
the
I
wrong
know you
word.
start. I did that multiple times in
Yeah.
our
Right.
conversation right before we
Right.
went live.
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah, when you talked, one of the things that we talked about earlier was in hiring people,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And just,
Yes.
thinking about if someone has the skills and qualifications for a job, age should be irrelevant. It doesn't matter if they're in their 20s or if they're in their 70s.
Right.
So something to be aware of.
And I started to say, but if they're in their 70s, they might not have, and I'm thinking the stamina, the, whatever, and you really busted me on that, which was fantastic. Like, how do you know until you meet them? I know some 70-year-olds who are healthier
running
than I
circles
am,
around.
very spry.
And
Is that a
too,
bad word? Spry?
but it's trying to figure out, because I still believe that, I got into our, I guess, long-term care, because I don't know what else to call it, long-term care
Right.
industry,
Yeah.
because I always feel there's value to be added by those that have gone before you. And it's our job to listen to them in whatever capacity that they have. And I think that's what part of this is, right, is the intergenerational is to learn from one another, right?
Right, in both directions.
Right.
Because it isn't only older people teaching younger people their knowledge or sharing their experiences. It goes in both directions or all directions. Everybody has something to bring to the table, and we all have different experiences in our lives and backgrounds, and all of us can learn from one another. And age isn't the focus of that.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
as 89-year-old can learn something from a 5-year-old,
I have a 92-year-old grandmother. I have a daughter who's 3.5 and a son who's 2. And when she interacts with them, it's just this joy, this pure natural joy that
Joy.
occurs between both of them. It's like, Gigi, can you do this? Or Gigi, give me candy, basically.
Give me candy. Soon it'll be, give me money.
She's going to go to Dad first. When Dad says no, she'll go to Grandma or Mimi. When
true.
Mimi says no, she'll go to Gigi.
Okay, all right. We have a hierarchy.
Yeah, you have a hierarchy about. But it's that idea, though, of I think sometimes with our spread out society or culture, we lose that intergenerational, right? Like, and that was the bedrock for most cultures for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Most cultures had multi-generations living together in one household.
Right.
So
Yeah.
everybody was aware of all the different experiences.
I was at a Aging Well in Jefferson County meeting last night, and they said something I hadn't heard before. Have you ever heard of lasagna generation?
No, I've not heard of that
Have you heard
one.
of that?
No, but I'm
So-
wondering if my mom fits that.
So what Karen, who is Karen Stewart of Jeffco, said, lasagna was her. She had her parents and her grandmother,
Layers.
and then she had her children and her grandchildren.
Oh, taking care of
Layers.
Well, and some of them were in the same
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
They were like
Gosh.
So that's what she's like. I'm not the sandwich. I'm lasagna. I'm like, what are you
I
talking
like
about?
that.
And
I
was
really
like,
like that. And I think, there's all kinds of studies on the impact on dementia and quality of life for people who are of older age living with dementia, living with young children in the same household. Obviously, there's someone in the middle there, the sandwich generation, but there's a lot around that.
Right.
So one of the words that we hit all the time, and I'll show you here, and we'll put this in the show notes because this is a lot of text, but this is really interesting. It's a quick start guide with some words that we use today that maybe we could change. Okay, so we're in the industry, senior. Senior care. We're gonna, whatever. They're a senior. I read an article this morning that actually called them senior citizens, and I was appalled. I'm like, no, we don't
probably
call
used
them
it,
senior
20 times in that article,
citizens.
right? They
Yes.
kept repeating it over
Yes.
and over.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Which is an important thing to be aware of, right?
Yeah.
Like within the media and our own organizations and just our own life, the words that we're choosing to use and how much they're perpetuated. So we all have a choice and we have the power to shift that.
So one of the things I asked you was, but when I talk about seniors, I am talking about a certain group. I know what that is. Some of the words that are offered here are like older people or Americans or just not age defining at all or much. But if I say a senior, I know what I'm talking about and the world knows what I'm talking about-ish. If I say older adult, that widens that so much. So talk to me about that.
Well, why would it matter if they are framed, if you say older adult, that should be okay too, right? So if you're saying senior, what is it that distinguishes that as being separate from older adult? And why do you need to have something that's attaching an age range to it. And when you think about
That's
age,
interesting, yeah.
the way that age comes into play are more for policies or laws that we have, say Medicare eligibility or drinking at age 21 or things like that. But in general, like just, age shouldn't be as relevant as it is or so focused on,
Do you think the long-term care industry is the biggest culprit and reason we perpetuate the words that were kind of our ageism, that the words like senior, elderly, do you think we in the long-term care field are just actually making it worse?
I don't think it's necessarily the field that's doing it. I think it's a lot attributed to the media and the culture that we've built around it all. And we've just gone along with it. And the fact that we're questioning it now, we're standing back and creating initiatives such as this, is just bringing awareness to the language that we've always used. Just think of gender things, in the past, boy and girl or male, female, like that was so limiting, and everything has shifted into such a broader direction. And everything, in my opinion, is more on a spectrum in life in general, including age. So somebody that's 80 could have the energy of a 20-year-old, and a 20-year-old could have the energy of a typical stereotyped 80-year-old, right? So be aware of just rethink how we have,
So the other side to that too is our lifespan has almost doubled since the 1900s. And if that is the case, then what's happening is each season of our life is elongating as well, which I've been told is one of the potential reasons our 20-somethings still live with us at home, because even adolescence is elongating just a little bit. Midlife is elongating. People are having children later. We're aging a little bit later. And then there's the whole idea, which we've talked about on some of our podcasts, of our lifespan versus our health span. How long are you healthy versus how long do you need some extra care, which is the industry, the long-term care industry. So just factoring all of that in, there's so many things that are happening. And when you said the word spectrum, that really hit me, because our spectrum used to be this, and now it's actually this. So where are we on that?
Right.
And what does that look like? And
this is the first time in history of humans that it's been this way, that people are living this long. And so clearly we have not designed tools to accommodate this experience for all, so many
we're
people
forging paths.
Exactly.
Language, I mean, language too, we have to forge new language to talk about the increased longevity, right? And because I'm trying to think of how, I see what you're saying, is the age of someone shouldn't necessarily put a certain label on them, right?
Right.
Because you could make improper assumptions. Someone that is in their 80s, well, why are they doing that? Well, because they want to, right?
Right, exactly.
And so why would it matter if they're 80, 60, 40, or 20?
Exactly.
And is that the big challenge of what you want to do with these conversations, is really challenge how we think about age, or how we talk about it, or both?
Both. Think about it, talk about it, and then take action. Like, help change things and change where you work. And say if you work in an organization and your HR department, are they really focusing on age for hiring or not? And just being aware of
something as simple as that.
Right, just,
And really thinking about what are we doing in our daily lives. Think about when you use the word senior or elder, what other alternatives could you use? And one of the problems, honestly, I have with the older adult as an alternative is we're so used to senior. It's one word. Are we lazy Americans? It feels like, okay, one more word in there. So it is evolving, no question. And I'm sure someone will come up with some mashup word for us to put in there.
So that's a good challenge.
Yeah.
Throw out
come up with a
any of
mashup.
our viewers, listeners, if you're watching this on replay, make a comment of what you would like to see some of the language change to. We've talked about how elderly should go to older adult or older American, but put your own out there. Let's get a conversation started on different options for language that's out there. So I'll challenge all of our viewers, even on replay, put a comment out there about what you want to do to change the language.
Yeah, talk to us. We love it. And another one that's on here is, some of you have heard this, especially if you're in the industry, the silver tsunami. Strike that from your vocabulary if you use that. I've certainly used it in the past, and I make sure that I do not use that. That's when I'm very very on top of, because when we spoke with Karen Brown on the podcast about this as well, she said, I come from a geology background, and if there is a tsunami, people are dead. This is not this. And what Amy told us when we did the podcast with Dr. Amy Dorr here at MSU, which by the way, we're here at MSU.
What is MSU? Can you tell her?
Metro State University.
Thank you, 'cause-
Metropolitan State University of Denver.
Because where I come from, MSU
Thank
is
you.
not a good word, and that's Michigan State University.
Oh,
They're a
here
big
we
rival,
go.
so I'm going to throw that in
And
there.
I got
And we're
none of the sports things.
A big go blue, so out there. So,
oh boy. Now we got
yeah.
some people riled.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So when we spoke with Amy, she talked about the fact that we all talk about this big wave of baby boomers coming, but it's not a wave.
No.
It's growing and it's staying. So this is not like a big tidal wave that's going to come and go away.
Right.
And there are 10,000 new baby boomers turning 65 every single day. And if we know anything about baby boomers, they will change the world. They did in the 60s.
Right.
They're going to do it now. So things are definitely going to change.
So, Kris, what's one of the big things you want to challenge? You, either personally or professionally, what's one of your things you want to challenge that we want to get out to the listeners and viewers?
With this, well, I would love to see everyone register to be a part of this and learn more about what we're doing, and hopefully facilitate a conversation or join in and participate in a conversation, and just start to become aware of how much more we all have in common, and it's not about what age you are, and just look at people as individuals and see what is similar or different, or what you can learn from each other and share between one another, and not judge people based upon what age you think they are, you know. That's important.
That's
to me.
awesome. And to not make pay attention to your wording, your choice of words, and don't make yourself wrong if you mess up.
Yeah.
Just, okay, well, maybe that's a word I want to change. Let's get curious. Let's make sure that we get curious about what we're doing,
Right.
and try new things.
Yeah.
What do you think we can do with our editors and some of those? Have you guys reached out to some of in the media, like the editors, the ones that are really
great question.
reviewing the language, because that's where it's going to be the most prevalent, right? Is
Right.
change for language will occur, newspapers, posts,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Right.
How is that going?
That would be more on Janine Vanderberg's side
Okay,
to do,
all right.
but I know that she's very aware of that, and we are connected with media sources and putting out there as much as we can and as much as they will accept our information about what we're doing and how we're trying to change the language and help the media learn. And the benefit is that there are a lot of people that agree with this and understand the limitations and barriers that language can instill in, you know, the movement of things. So I think the more people are aware, they'll think, oh, I want to do this in my organization or in my media company or whatever, right?
That's
Actually,
great.
one of the groups that is participating in this conversation is a marketing company.
Oh, cool.
And their intention is to have an intergenerational conversation and teach their clients about marketing and the language that they're using, and to make sure
great.
it's not
That's awesome.
ageist.
That's
So-
awesome.
That is great. So
Yeah.
where can people find more information?
So if they could go onto the internet to changingthenarrativeco.org, you'll see the graphic that looks like this on the same page, campaign. And if you click into this, then you can go into register. Once you've registered, then I will know about that, and I'll get in touch with you and find out what you'd like to do and how you would like to be involved with this initiative.
And can conversations begin to be facilitated anytime, or how is that looking from if someone registers today, how fast or does it take them to be able to facilitate?
If the length would take, like if you know of, say you wanted to do it within your organization, if you could put it together and get a room together and have your team meet, it could be done, you know, in the next couple of days.
Oh, wow,
I just would
okay.
email you everything, so it could happen very quickly. But if you're trying to plan an event where you're inviting lots of people, then it could take weeks to just get enough people to register to come to your event.
Okay.
So
And to get the exposure for it, right?
Yeah.
So let's take this from a Colorado conversation to a worldwide conversation. That's my challenge for you.
yeah.
Because this isn't just going to affect local, right? It affects the entire globe. Because
Exactly.
everyone hopefully is aging, and I personally believe we need to look at aging as a gift. It's a blessing to be able to
Yeah.
get older. It's not this negative, right? It's
Yeah,
negative.
experience, right, yeah. Our culture has created it to be in a negative context,
Right.
and that's sad.
And we do
wrong,
the
and
same with our millennials. We say
Judged.
that millennials are a certain way, but
right, and that's not accurate
Right.
either, you know.
Right.
So yeah,
It's a
Get
lot of
into-
assumptions, I think, are made across.
Yeah.
We make a lot of assumptions.
so that's the idea. Question your assumptions.
Yes.
Think about what you want to do to make a change. See what you can do today to make a change in your language.
And so we challenge you to come to our website, Maverick Senior Living. We'll have all this information up there. Join our movement, but more importantly, jump on changing the narrative. Become a facilitator or get involved somehow to really have an impact on our language.
Yep.
And we will put all the information in show notes in the comments, so please take a look. But again, we want to challenge you guys to come up with some different words. Challenge yourselves to begin to think about how we can define aging more general, more broad, and more intergenerational.
And I want someone to come up with a new word for senior that we can all use. That's just one word. So
And a new word for
get
dementia as
creative.
well, too. And a new word for dementia.
Good. Get creative.
Get creative. So until the next challenge, I'm Francis Lagasse, your Chief Curiosity Maverick.
I'm Catherine Wells, your Chief Inspiration Maverick. And thank you, Kris.
Geerken. Yeah, thank you all for having me here.
Absolutely.
This has been wonderful. Thanks
Thank
so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Until the next challenge.